Hi, and welcome to Tremco Live, where we're socially distant but technically connected. I love the capability of reaching out to everybody every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern. We get to talk about certain topics, and it doesn't matter where we are, we still get to connect. As a matter of fact, I am currently not in Cleveland, Ohio. I'm coming to you live from another location as I was on vacation this week. But once again, it gives us a great opportunity to connect every single week. I am Marcy Tyler. I am your host today for Tremco Live, and I'm the Director of Building Science for Tremco Commercial Sealants and Waterproofing. Normally, my co-host likes to introduce the fact that we represent so many different products, services, and people that are under the Tremco Construction Products Group, like Tremco Roofing, Tremco Commercial Sealants and Waterproofing, Will Seal, Drive It, and of course, Nudura. So many different ways that we can connect and so many different ways that we can engage. If you've been tuning in this month, in the month of October, we'll be talking all about sports venues. As always, we have a few slides that we like to share and a topic that we like to go over. So we'll get right into that. Oh, and I think you can see, yes, you can. You can, oh no, good, it's gone. I thought you could see my calendar. So as I mentioned, we've got our sports venues as our engagement this month. Like we always mention, all the different pieces, parts, and all the different opportunities from a system perspective that we can touch on when it comes to your projects, and specifically for this month, we're featuring sports venues. So as we've been going through this journey together in the month of October, we started off with Paul Brown Tiger Stadium in Massillon, Ohio. Then we started to talk about Notre Dame in Fort Bend, Indiana. Last week, we had a great guest on. We had Mike O'Malley representing Rust-Oleum. We talked about a variety of different projects with him. And we're looking at having even more involvement in our final week, which is next week. As always, I like to kind of kick us off with a polling question. We had a few last week. So this week, I want to know, who do you want to win for the World Series? So last week, we had 4 teams, right? Because there was more teams involved. The interesting topic of asking today is both of the teams that are in the World Series right now, Tampa Bay Rays, they have the Stanley Cup. And then the Dodgers, obviously with LeBron James, they won the championship for basketball. So let's get your polling question up so that you guys can answer this question. We'll give you some time. Obviously, it's 2 choices this week with the 2 teams that are competing in the World Series. If you haven't been paying close attention, they're both tied. Each team has one win, and tonight is Game 3 of the World Series. So right now, we're hoping you are voting on either the Tampa Bay Rays or your Los Angeles Dodgers. Okay. So we've got that coming in. I'm going to close that and share that with all of you now to see who your co-attendees are rooting for. So last week, if you weren't engaged with us, Tampa Bay Rays won last week too, when there was obviously more choices. This week they're winning again, as you can see there on screen, 54% for Tampa Bay Rays, and the LA Dodgers at 46. So I'm going to tell you right now, my undisclosed location is very close to Tampa Bay Rays, and that's who I'm rooting for. However, I am a huge fan of the Dodgers, which I did explain last week as well. So thanks for engaging with us. As we continue to provide this type of engagement with all of you, we are really enjoying your feedback. We're going to continue to give you options to answer questions. We have one more at the end, so stay tuned for that. And we love adding that human interest to our segments as well. So continue to provide that information, provide your case studies and your ideas, because we really do love engaging with you regularly. This week, we are continuing our journey in sports arenas, but I didn't want to do it alone, so I invited my co-host, but in this case, he's a co-ghost because he's just joining us audibly today. So John Breidenbach, welcome to Tremco Live.
Marcy, thank you. Thank you for having me. Yeah, this is great. Sorry you can't see me. I'm all dressed up today, but the camera's not working for some reason.
Yes, he has his tux on, so we have to just trust him that he has his co-hosting tux on. I didn't know it was Black Tie Affair, so next time we have you on, I will make sure that your camera's working and that we are able to see you in your finest. So thank you for joining us today. we always like to be able to share some information about our co-host. So for those that don't know you, go ahead and let us know a little bit about John Breidenbach, please.
Oh, sure, absolutely. I'm up in Chicago, and I am an architect, and I was a project architect at a firm in Chicago before I joined Tremco, and that was 25 years ago. And I've been able to develop a bit of a specialty, if you will, in roofing, and I've been witness to quite a few changes and evolutions in my quarter century, and it's been, to be honest with you, fascinating. And the topic today is, for me, just one of the most exciting that have happened in my career. So looking forward to sharing a couple ideas about that with you and your audience today, Marcy.
Perfect, thanks. So John, you said you are coming from Chicago. Now you aren't from Chicago. You are living in Chicago. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah, I'm a grad of the University of Cincinnati, so I'm an Ohio boy, and I made my way here in the mid '90s. So I've been here for some time.
Perfect.
From the Midwest.
I say that
very important. Yes.
I feel like people that are from Chicago and initially, from there, grew up there, born there, they tend to say Chicagoland. It's something I noticed last week with our guest, Mike O'Malley from Rust-Oleum. And so I knew you weren't from Chicago. I knew you were and you're an Ohio boy, so it was a somewhat loaded question I gave you there. But
you bet.
Nonetheless, thanks for sharing that. John and I have the great opportunity of working together regularly. We engage together and represent Tremco to our consultants in the industry. So we're pretty excited to have that opportunity to be able to reach out regularly. And so I was very excited to have you helping me host today. I know you're very excited about the content because we get to represent our hometown, Cleveland Cavaliers, and the work that we did on this project. So thanks for joining me, and thanks for helping me out explain this great project.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, the projects we're going to discuss today represent such a fascinating evolution in the world of roofing. I tell folks when I talk about restoration that this is about as exciting as roofing gets. We're able to take an existing roof and use it as a substrate to build a new roof upon and provide a full system warranty for that solution. So everything from the structural deck up as if it's a new system. And what we're doing in effect is keeping the costs down dramatically, reducing construction times dramatically. And oh, by the way, we're not tearing off a bunch of material and taking it to the local dump. So it's a wonderful sustainability narrative as well. And this has been such a great tool, such a great solution for a lot of building owners, particularly those who own these big stadiums. As you can imagine, shutting down for a couple of days could be very, very expensive. So it's been a wonderful solution.
Yes, and there is for those of you who don't know, there is a video that goes through this information that we're sharing with you about the restoration project of the home of the Cleveland Cavaliers. And Michael Lathrop, who's the facility architect that was involved, talked about the fact that, now obviously this is prior to COVID, they had over 200 events, and that arena hosts 3 different sports teams. So shutting down or removing a roof or anything that's involved with that kind of occupant displacement, as it would be for something as huge as this arena, was not an option. So they were very excited about this as their restoration solution. And I know there was a variety of different things that were considered for this project, and in the end, the diagnostics and the capabilities of being able to not only restore the roof by adding the liquid membrane or fluid applied roofing membrane, but also cleaning it. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, you bet. So not every roof can be restored. The process of going through the diagnostic steps to establish whether a roofing candidate can be restored is quite honestly more important than what we actually restore it with. Because if we put a really great restoration system on a roof that should not be restored, we're doing nobody any favors. So diagnostics is immensely important. We want to do things like in asphaltic systems, establish whether there's enough tensile strength left or enough bitumen left in the system to provide that substrate we need. And we do other tests as well, but perhaps the most important part of this is establishing whether or not there is wet material in the existing roof. And we do that by using an infrared technology to use the heat differential in the material to discern whether or not there's wet material, where it is, how much, and the extent of it. Very, very important. We obviously don't want to encapsulate wet material in a roofing solution. But what this also does is it puts us in a place where we make an educated business decision about a candidate to be restored, because it tells us how much wet material is in there. If it's 10%, fantastic candidate. If it's 50%, boy, that's going to get expensive to replace before we put the fluid applied restoration solution on top of that existing roof. So that's very, very important.
And I know that in educating the industry, you play a big role in that. And there is going to be an opportunity at the end of this broadcast today to let us know what your interest level is as an audience to learn more about it. But this is something you do on a regular basis. Correct, John? You educate the industry that this is an option, and the idea of how important the diagnostics is, as well as this as an option and staying ahead of it from a maintenance perspective.
That's right. I get to spend a lot of time with my design professional community friends and talk about all kinds of things in roofing. But over the past 10 years or so, the concept of restoration has re-entered into the dialogue in earnest, in good part because every time we adopt a new edition of the energy code in roofing, we typically add more R value. And when we do that, we raise the height of the roof. It gets far more expensive, and roofing has never been more expensive than it is today. If we can keep that, think of it as a portfolio of assets. If we can keep it in place and extend the life of what you already have through the process of restoration, that's a wonderful solution. The key, though, is that you have to do proper diagnostics, restore appropriately, because every solution needs to be customized to the particular roof you're looking at. And lastly, it needs to be a full system warranty approach. It cannot be just a warranty on the membrane you're putting down, but rather a warranty that covers everything from the structural deck up, existing insulation, existing membrane flashings, metal counter flashings, and onward. So it is, in a sense, a brand new roof once you're done, fully warranted.
It's a great option. And I know working with you and other of our colleagues, I've learned a lot about the process, the diagnostic process, but as well as the cleaning process. And I think what's really interesting for this project, they did do the roof tech cleaning option. You want to tell us a little bit about that and how they recapture the water?
You bet. You bet. Once we establish a candidate can be restored, we need to prepare the surface appropriately. Which means we want to clean it, and we also want to use primer that's correct for the substrate. Cleaning a roof, though, is not as simplistic as one may think. Power washing may be an option. It can work. It can actually work well. But sometimes Clean Water Act catches up with us appropriately and makes us contain the water we use to clean a roof, because that can be quite dirty, and it's not, you can't always just let it run down the drain. So there are systems out there like the one we have, which is called Roof Tech, where you see the picture on the upper left, where we run over the roof with a pressure washer in sense with scrubbing brushes. It's very aggressive, gets everything nice and clean. But most importantly, it recaptures the water, runs it back to the pump station, and cleans it back to very clean water that is perfectly fine to go down the drain or perhaps be reused again. So it can be a relatively complex approach, but is also readily accessible to the design professional to fulfill these solutions. There are solutions out there to deal with this.
Well, and that's great. And as we all know in this industry, if we're in this industry, we know the prep is so important with any of these products, right? So this is preparing that surface, getting it nice and clean and ready for the application of the products. And I believe that power washing, this process uses only a third of the amount of water that you would do if you were power washing.
You're exactly right. That is correct as well. So again, we kind of dovetail back into that sustainability narrative we're working with for the entire solution.
And I believe on this project, they utilized the AlphaGuard MT solution.
They did. AlphaGuard MT, that is the polyurethane fluid applied roofing system. MT stands for moisture triggered. So once the material is exposed to moisture, the curing process begins. And once the substrate is properly cleaned and primed, we put down a base coat. We typically put it down at about, let's call about 48 mils in thickness. Then we lay in reinforcing. We back roll the reinforcing, and then we let that base coat cure out. Once it's cured, then we come back in with a top coat, same material. Oftentimes weight as a default to meet our solar reflective index requirement. And we apply that again at about 48 mils in thickness. And that is the completed roof system, if you will, that's placed upon the existing roof. No laps, no seams, eminently maintainable, and very durable, very robust, and in a high build application that'll last a very long time.
It's a great solution, and I know it was a successful install. And with that, there was an additional install we wanted to talk about today. A similar process of cleaning, AlphaGuard branded product, a different one for this one, and we have another guest that we wanted to bring on today to start to talk about the next project. So, John, if it's okay, I'd like to add another guest to our show today.
Oh, and we absolutely should.
It's Jim Getson. Jim, welcome to the show. Welcome to our broadcast. So,
Jim, good afternoon.
Jim is just an outline today. He's trying to protect himself because he's gotten pretty popular and famous because of his work on Ford field. Just kidding. When we were practicing earlier today, he looked like an outline, like he was on a TV show where we had to disguise his voice and his picture. So we thought it would be interesting if John's our co-ghost, we could have Jim be our protected witness in a witness protection program. So obviously that's not the case. So welcome, Jim. Welcome to Tremco Live, Tremco Broadcast. We're happy to have you. So I know you were listening in, and we're excited to have your feedback on the project that you worked on. But before we get to that, tell us a little bit about yourself and your experience with Tremco and this industry.
Absolutely. Again, thank you, Marcy, for inviting me. This is a great honor, but it's really this is a great project to highlight, and it's a project that has really catapulted Tremco in the fluid applied arena. It's just that a lot of projects have been spawned from this one. But to tell you a little bit about myself, I've been with Tremco 35 years. I've been in roofing 44. Came from contracting. Came as a tech guy back in 1985, and then just through, kind of like the Joe Slattery story, just the evolution of being engaged with the company, and good things happen when you stay engaged. So I really enjoyed my career at Tremco. Still got him. I still probably got under 20 years.
You got a John beat. John only had 25 years with Tremco, so you got him beat. So, but yeah, it's interesting. I worked for Tremco right out of college. For those of you that didn't know that, I graduated, just 2 years ago. I'm kidding. No, but I started with Tremco right out of college, and then I left for 10 years to be at home with my kids. And when I came back after being gone for 10 years, there were so many faces that were here. So it is that longevity. I like hearing that. I like hearing how, you guys have been in the industry, and of course with Tremco for so many years. And of course you just mentioned Joe Slattery and how he was involved, and how he has been involved with Tremco for so many years. And he just recently retired after, I think it's 43 years?
47.
47. Okay. Well, see, now he has you beat,
yeah.
Jim. So it's just interesting for sure, that longevity. And I think a key part of all of this, not only the projects we talk about, but it has to do with relationships. And I think that's a key part of your message and this Ford Field project, because it did come from a relationship that you had in the industry. So we've got some other slides to share, but go ahead and tell us a little bit about your relationship here and how this project came about.
So that's a great point, Marcy. So the director of facilities at Ford Field, Fred Reddick, I had the fortunate experience of working with him when he was at different roles. He was in healthcare, he was in automotive, so we've had a long relationship. But when he came to work and took over the role as director of facilities at Ford Field, he, once he got situated, he wanted me to. Actually, how it really spun was that they were charged. Ford Field was charged to have the Ford logo and the block letters of Ford Field updated. If you look at some of the original photos before the restoration project, it was a very faded graphic, and they were obligated by the season of the beginning of the season 2016 to have that logo and block letters upgraded. So it started with the basics of a roof inspection, roof walk, and it basically builds on what John said originally, is you got to know what you have. So my recommendation was the infrared analysis, and that told the story. If you're going to spend several hundred of thousands of dollars to redo the logo, you might as well find out what the balance of the roof and the condition. So this roof wasn't that old. It was roughly 14 years old. But I think it had been abused a lot from the local environment and weather, and so the infrared turned out very favorable. And just the story of not being able to, if you would have had this roof run to fail, that would have been maybe an 18-month project. This project, once it went underway, was less than 4 months. So that was a real attraction of roof restoration versus complete total roof replacement.
That's incredible from a time perspective, right? For it to be, 4 months time, and that's a huge amount of square footage. I think, what is it, greater than 300,000 square feet, if my notes are correct?
Yeah, 340,000 square feet was the dome. And this particular slide here shows the progression of the contractor. Schreiber Corporation did the work, did an excellent job. And there you can see in this particular slide where the roof was spot replaced, and then the beginning phases of the actual fluid applied with the AlphaGuard bio system. You can see the base coat and the progression of it coming across the roof. They were doing roughly 20,000 square foot a day, and that allowed them to get that type of production to be on time. The other attraction. Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. No, I was just going to say, as with a lot of what we talk about on our broadcast, there's a lot of other great videos related to this project. I just wanted to touch on that there's a great video of this project featuring the famous Jim. That's why we had to hide his face earlier on. But there was a video that I did capture for us to share. If you want to share, we can share this real quick. And it just shows the progression across the roof. I think that's pretty cool. It's a time lapse. So let's take a look at that real quick, and you can talk us through it as it's being shown here up on screen.
So interesting where this particular camera is located. This is across the street at Comerica Park, the home of the Detroit Tigers. We were able to get permission to put a camera there, which is capturing majority of the project. I think it may have got up a little later after it originally started, but as you can see, majority of the project was captured on this from this video perch, if you will.
Marcy, we can't hear you.
Of course you can't hear me.
There we go.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, you're good.
Okay, good. So that's one of many of the videos that are available. There's a great one that shows a lot of the challenges that you guys faced and there really wasn't that many. It was just an interesting way of delivering the product. If you want to tell us about that, because I'm not clicking on another video.
Well, so this particular that's actually a great series of photos, but this particular project had some challenges with the slope of the dome. So the successful roofing contractor Schreiber, they were the original roofing contractor that installed the PVC single ply, which was the existing roof that was restored. And they had experience with loading roofs with helicopters. So one day that this job started with staging, a helicopter was used to load 7 semis of Tremco products to the roof, and basically spotted each lift perfectly. They went and pre-marked all the locations where each lift was, and they did that in roughly 7.5 hours, less than 8-hour day, and it was quite a spectacle being on the ground when that was taking place, because of all the folks that were walking around, newspaper reporters and TV reporters. So it was quite interesting and pretty exciting. As you can see in these. Go ahead.
Well, in the conversations you and I have had about access to this arena, I know obviously helicopter brought the material up there, but how would you go up there, Jim? How did you traverse and make your way up to that roof?
So every day, the roofing crew, anybody that came on site to the project, you'd go up to the 7th floor, then you'd walk three stairways, 3 stories of a stairwell, and then across a catwalk, and then to a roughly just shy of 100-foot fixed interior ladder that goes to the roof hatch. So what was interesting, I think I climbed it every day. Some people climbed it more than once a day. I climbed it more than once a day a couple times. But it was, needless to say, the climb up that fixed ladder to the roof hatch would definitely get your heart pumping pretty good. You have to have a reasonable level of fitness to climb that ladder.
Well, and I know that this process of liquid applied roofing is somewhat considered newer in the industry, but it really is an amazing way to restore a roof without having to remove it and replace it. John mentioned as we cleaned the Cavaliers, home of the Cavaliers, we did the same thing here with the cleaning process and the recapturing using Roof Tech.
Yes, Roof Tech cleaned the Ford Field roof, and they did that again. That was cleaned in roughly about I want to say under 2 weeks. So it's actually a very productive methodology of getting it clean. And you can see there's photographs showing the contrast of the roof before it was cleaned and after, and it's quite a dynamic change in appearance of getting all the weathered surface cleaned and prepared and ready for the fluid applied application.
Well, and I know, as I mentioned, there's a variety of videos. There's a pretty interesting video all based on the logo and how the custom color matching of the logo and how it was done. So please check out those videos. But I do know that overall, very successable project. Now, in this one, you used AlphaGuard Bio as the membrane.
That's correct. Same application methodology. This was sprayed on the base coat at 48 mils, permafab reinforcement, and the top coat at 32 mils. And it just, like I said, they were doing roughly 20,000 square foot a day complete. And it's a very productive way to get roofing done nowadays, for sure.
Well, and I know overall the whole success of the project using liquid applied roofing, it was able to, make sure that the home of the Cavaliers and home of the Detroit Lions is leak free. It can be maintained. So I'm imagining that having these big monumental projects is certainly helping educate the industry in how great liquid applied membranes can be for this application.
Well, not only it is a great application, but it's from a business perspective. It has brought a lot of opportunities from my fellow Tremco representatives, and we have continued actually doing the lower roofs. Now we, as our discussion was last week, we've done 3 phases of the lower roofs, which is a modified, and still have another 100,000 square feet to do there at Ford Field, where then the entire roofing portfolio there will have been restored, and we plan on doing another phase here in the spring of 2021. So the fluid applied application is here to stay. And what's interesting, if you show this slide here, shows them what really was the original impetus was getting the Ford Field famous blue oval done and the block letters. That took up almost 70,000 square foot of that particular graphic application. So that was really the reason for the beginning of the process and the development of the project.
That's amazing. And I know in your video, you did talk about it being on time and completely safe. So there was no issues from a safety perspective either with this sloped application.
Yes. And it was exciting to be there. I never realized how busy Ford Field was outside of football until I was involved with this project. As we discussed during that first project, but Beyonce performed, and Guns N' Roses, and then again all the tenant space that Ford Field has. Everybody got to continue to go to work with little disruption because of the roofing restoration process.
Absolutely. So no occupant displacement or issues, so they were able to continue on with their events. So, well, thank you so much for your input, John, our co-ghost. Thank you for your input as well, everybody on this.
You bet.
Both of these installations. Now, for all of you that are watching today, if you want to know more about this type of application or any of the other products and systems that we represent on a regular basis, we do have a variety of continuing education credits that we make available to you on a regular basis. There is a whole setup of continuing education that's going to be available in the month of November that is being put on by those folks in those pictures there. So if you're interested in any of these, we'd really love the opportunity to provide that continuing education. And we're going to close out with one more polling question related to this training. So I'm going to pull up our polling question here. And this is all about continuing education. So are you interested? And you can click as many boxes as you would like. Are you interested in fluid applied roofing systems as we talked about today? John Breidenbach can bring you that information and really explain this even further. We've got Bob Dizelle in Advancements in EAF, so he can bring you that information. We've got the John Powers, the Evolution of Brick. He can bring that information to you. And then I have two. One's called Stop Water Intrusion on your project. So it's got a variety of different applications we're going to talk about there. And then the last one is compressed construction cycle time. So if you're interested in any of those, please let us know. I can see everybody is busily voting there. We'll be able to contact you on those and make that available, obviously, through social media as well. But we really do appreciate, as always, everyone joining us on your Friday, winding down with us on the Tremco Live broadcast. Thank you once again to John Breidenbach and Jim Getson for joining us today. Thank you so much, everybody, for your time and attention, and I'll see you next Friday on Tremco Live's broadcast. Have a great weekend.